Hello and welcome back to the channel where once again it's time for some Saturn versus PlayStation action, with today's games being the Saturn's premier 3D weapon-based fighter Last Bronx, and that is squaring off against the PlayStation's premier 3D weapon-based fighter in the form of Soul Blade. So if you're new to the channel or just unfamiliar with my comparison videos, what we do is we take a game off the Saturn and a game off the PlayStation and we compare them in the looks department, the sound department, gameplay and content and lifespan, and see which game comes out on top. We will either take a look at the same game across both systems or a game that was exclusive to the one and not on the other. So we're going to start with the Saturn first in the graphics department this week, and Last Bronx thankfully is one of the best looking 3D fighting games on the system. In fact, in my opinion, it may only be second to Virtua Fighter 2. The character models are clear and crisp, they're quite sharp as well. They've got reasonably good textures and details, making it look quite impressive. The backgrounds as well, although they're only 2D images, the way the camera pans from side to side gives you a great sense of 3D, which is quite a good thing too. As well as this, the character animation is very fluid and smooth as well, which is a really nice bonus, and it just adds to the presentation of the game overall. If I'm going to be nitpicky though with the actual graphical style of the game, I feel the game is quite generic in terms of its looks and character design. I don't feel that there's anything particularly memorable here, so if I'm going to put a downside on anything in the graphics department, it is going to be perhaps the graphical style of the game. So moving on to the PlayStation with Soul Blade, and in the looks department, Soul Blade is a very good looking 3D fighter for December of 1996, without a doubt the best looking 3D fighter on the PlayStation when it came out. If I'm comparing it directly to Last Bronx, so that's 8 months newer, and you can tell in perhaps the actual design of the character models they're a bit sharper, a bit clearer on the Saturn. On the PlayStation though, the backgrounds in Soul Blade are far more varied and far more interesting, and you feel like there is more going on there. In fact, the graphical style of Soul Blade overall is much more appealing and unique than Last Bronx. I said Last Bronx felt quite generic. Soul Blade, when it came out, felt fresh and new, and the characters were interesting, and they are far more memorable in their design as well. So overall, in the looks department, I'm going to have to give it to Soul Blade. People are going to probably object with that because they will say Last Bronx character models do look better. But I feel overall Soul Blade is a more impressive, more varied looking game. It's fantastically animated as well. And I just feel overall Soul Blade is the more appealing game on the eye. So heading back to the Saturn for sound effects and music, and the sound effects for Last Bronx are pretty standard stuff. Everything seems functional, run-of-the-mill. There's nothing that's terrible that says, oh, that's bad. But at the same time, it's not unique, and nothing sticks out as being, wow, that's impressive. And the music is sort of the same thing, really, because the soundtrack is upbeat. It's got a funky, high tempo to it, and that's quite good. And the tracks fit the levels reasonably well. There's just not enough variety between the tracks. They all sound quite similar, and there's no way if you played a piece of music from this game that I would be able to definitely go off the top of my head, yes, that's a piece of music from Last Bronx, because there's nothing truly memorable here. So whilst there's nothing bad, at the same time, it's not unique or special enough for it to stand out as a big draw or plus point for the game. So heading back to the PlayStation with Soul Blade for sound effects and music, and if there's one thing I wouldn't want to have to do as a game, it is face off against Soul Blade in the sound effects and music department, because this game is absolutely brilliant with both. The sound effects are memorable with fantastic voiceover work for the characters, and also the chap who introduces the battles on every stage. It is really, really good stuff. And the music is just simply brilliant. There's nothing that anybody can say that's going to ever change my mind on that. The medieval score for the game is just absolutely fantastic. This is some of the very best music on any fighting game from this generation ever. So when it comes to comparing the two in sound effects and music, Soul Blade is the absolute runaway winner. So moving back to the Saturn for gameplay, and if you've played any of Sega's other 3D fighting games on the system, you will be very familiar with the way the game plays, because you've got a punch, a kick, and a block. So it really does just play the same as games like Fighters Megamix, Fighting Vipers, Virtua Fighter, the only addition being the fact you've had weapons added. So it really doesn't feel particularly original or fresh in the way that it plays. That doesn't mean it plays bad, it just doesn't add enough new. The only addition really is the fact that you can pull off aerial combos when your opponent's in the air. You can hit them a few times before they land, and that really is to me the only addition, and it's not something that makes the game stand out enough. So overall in the gameplay department, I do feel that Last Bronx is somewhat disappointing. So heading back over to Soul Blade for gameplay, and what Namco could have done here is just implement the Tekken control scheme and give the characters weapons. That would have been the easy thing to do. But back in these days, Namco wasn't like that, and they were willing to try something new, so they gave it a different control scheme of a kick, a horizontal attack, a vertical attack, and a block, added in the weapons, and the game feels, still now, fresh and innovative for the time that it came out. And that makes the game stand out in the gameplay department. It is more responsive and crisper and sharper to play than Last Bronx as well, and ultimately far more enjoyable, and that is really where it's at in terms of gameplay. There's loads of moves to master for each character as well, and the combos when you pull them off look really, really good too. So overall in the gameplay department, it really is a no contest. Soul Blade is a vastly superior playing game to Last Bronx. In terms of content, we've got arcade mode, VS mode, Saturn mode, survival mode, time attack mode, watch mode, movies, portraits, aerial combo practice, and free practice mode on Last Bronx. So it appears that there's a lot of content within the game. Obviously, 2 of those are only practice modes. They're not going to give you a lot of gameplay. And Saturn mode and arcade mode are very similar. It's just that the Saturn mode has the ending video at the end of the final round for your character. So there isn't really a whole lot of difference there. There's only 8 characters on the game as well, with 1 additional character that can be unlocked. There's a few bits of unlockable content like portraits and alternative weapons, but they involve winning the game on increasing difficulties without losing single rounds, so they're very, very tough to unlock. But overall in the content and lifespan department, it is superior to fighting games on the Saturn that came before it. So moving back to Soul Blade for content, we've got arcade mode, VS mode, team battle, time attack, survival, practice mode, and edge master mode. But Soul Blade has a superior number of characters to it, and you also get 1 additional character to unlock as well. You can get multiple endings in arcade mode because there will be interactive bits at the end of the video sequence which can change the ending for your characters, which is really good because there's replay value there to play through the storyline twice as each character. But the main thing is, without a doubt, edge master mode, where you pick your character, go through a unique story for that character, and unlock all the different weapons that that character can use. And this takes a long time, and you can do it for every single character, meaning the lifespan for Soul Blade surpasses anything that any other 3D fighter at that point in time could do. It was unheard of. It was a tremendously unique and brilliant one-player experience that still stands the test of time today. So in the content and lifespan department, despite Last Bronx actually being pretty good, Soul Blade is the runaway winner again. So it will come as no surprise when I say that Soul Blade is this week's winner. It really does outdo Last Bronx in pretty much all regards, and it means the PlayStation takes a 4-2 lead in the series as well. Last Bronx is pretty much a case of a big fish in a small pond, and then when it's got to compete against one of the big boys off the PlayStation, it simply isn't as good. I don't think anybody can say anything that is going to change my mind on that. But the important thing is, what is everybody else's thoughts on these 2 games and how they compare? Did I get it right? Have I been overly critical on Last Bronx? Or perhaps I'm so biased towards Soul Blade because the Soul Calibur series is my favourite series of fighting games of all time, but I genuinely do think Soul Blade is a better game. I'm going to give you a little preview as well. In 2 weeks time, my next comparison video will be a racing game, a 3D racing game compared across both systems. Different titles though, I should say, so that will be something to look forward to. But until then, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of those good things, and I shall see you again soon for another video. Goodbye for now.